every time I crossed over the Bay Bridge, I thought, there's something really terrific about this place. There was this feeling of anticipation every time I crossed over onto Kent Island. And I'm driving through and I thought, there's some magical stuff that we could do here. We just need to position it the right way and things could really grow here. So I resigned my position. I moved to Easton and set up a studio, and then I was dying for some things to do. So we were doing these little pickup jobs. And I was playing at the Presbyterian Church here in Easton, and met a wonderful lady named Eve Bloom. And Eve it didn't take her long to introduce me to her husband, Ralph. And Ralph Bloom happens to be the father of Lawrie Bloom, one of our artistic directors. And they had retired here. And Ralph said, I've got this great idea to start a festival, a chamber music festival. And of course, my initial reaction was, are you crazy? We sat down and we talked about what we were going to do, and we had one concert. One. It took us a whole year to get that one concert going. And it was a wonderful event. People were very excited about it. We started then planning for the next year and thought, let's do this again. And Ralph said, let's call it the annual Chamber Music Festival. And I thought, that guy, that is a dreamer. That's a guy with a big vision who's going to take this huge leap of faith and do something that I, at that time, as a mid 20-year-old guy, just wouldn't have the guts to do. So we did start calling it the annual Chamber Music Festival, and we had our next concert, actually 2 concerts, at the Maritime Museum. And from there, it just grew and grew. Suddenly we were doing 2 weekends. Then we were doing 2 weekends with concerts in between the 2 weekends. Then we were doing 2 weeks worth of concerts. It wasn't long ago that Marcy, Lawrie, and I both looked at each other and thought, how did we get here? The words world class are so passé now. Because everybody uses world class, and they make it sound more world class when they put it all in caps. Then you're like, oh, they must be really good because it's in capital letters. And I have to admit, I've fallen into that trap, and I've said, we've got world class musicians coming here. But for me, it has been that changeover from me assigning a label to our musicians to their peers and other musicians and other venues assigning that label to them. So when I look at somebody like a Kim Kaskashian, who is coming to our festival, our Chamber Music Festival, starting in June, she is considered one of the top 10 violists in the world. I also like to point out that our musicians have won Grammys. They've won Grammy nominations. They've won awards from all the prestigious institutes in the United States. I think when we hit our 10th anniversary, I said to myself, we've got something incredibly special here. And I don't know whether that's because I was more mature, in my mid-30s at that point, or whether it was because I saw this incredible synergy between artists and audience. There was something kind of magical that happened at that particular anniversary, which I think everybody bought into, the fact that that we really had something pretty amazing here. Well, I think out of the Chamber Music Festival and our original ideas came an organization that was presenting concerts year-round. Chamber music concerts, classical concerts, that was also presenting a jazz festival, an international chamber music competition, a youth reach program that brings violin lessons into the schools and reaches hundreds and hundreds of children every year in Dorchester and Talbot counties. And I think that when we first started, we hoped it would grow to this point, but we had no idea that it would actually happen. So I think from our original concept of just doing some concerts and enjoying each other's company, in Easton, it has grown to this much bigger organization that's doing so much more than just the Chamber Music Festival. And I think is reaching a much bigger audience than we ever thought was possible.